Welcome my friends, welcome back to Project TAS. If you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you've watched any of my previous videos, thank you for returning to my channel. Today we're reviewing the entirety of Season 2, before we move on to the first episode of Season 3. As always, I will point out that this review will inevitably touch upon certain plot elements of this series, and may even reveal developments for the series of Blake 7 as a whole. So if you haven't seen any episodes from this season, or anything else in terms of Blake 7, a huge spoiler alert is in order in case you wish to do a bit of Blake 7 catch-up prior to watching this review. You have been warned. Right, let's get to it, shall we? So ends Season 2, and the most fluctuating season in terms of its quality. It began as Blake's 8, and goes back to being Blake 7 just before the midway point, more on that in a bit. By my scoring, it attains 19 stars, exactly the same as Season 1, although with 6 episodes with no stars as opposed to just the 4 from Season 1. It begins with a 4-star and ends with a 4-star. In between, it's like being on a Big Dipper. Redemption and Shadow get Season 2 up and running with a combination of action and intelligent storytelling. We follow this with the less than interesting Weapon and even duller Horizon, and then it's the excellent Pressure Point followed by the brilliant Trial, then 3 more episodes, a combination of the mediocre, the stupid and the excellent, sometimes all in one episode. Follow that up with 3 god-awful episodes, including, in my opinion, the worst episode of Blake 7 ever, Voice from the Past, and conclude it with, in my opinion, the best episode of Blake 7 ever, Star 1. A small side effect of what happens when extra writers enter the mix. Yes, Chris Boucher was still script editor, but he also contributed scripts for 4 episodes, 3 excellent and 1 lackluster at best. When the script editor writes, who will edit the editor? Season 2 is both good and bad. You just need to know where to look in both cases. I find myself stating it's a good season, in spite of some of the deadwood, as it gives our characters something to strive for, something to focus their attentions. Control, also known as Star 1. It was first introduced to us in Pressure Point, somewhat out of the blue, but then it did follow Weapon and Horizon, so it needed a shot in the arm by this point. Since Control on Earth turned out to be a myth, or rather a lie, or even more appropriately, a trap, we're then introduced to Star 1 in Countdown. Both of these episodes are written by Terry Nation, by the way, so the idea of this great all-controlling base was down to the Blake 7 creator himself. It was rounded off by Chris Boucher's Star 1, an episode I can't stop gushing about. What sat between the latter 2 of these 3 episodes I mentioned, Countdown and Star 1 that is where the arc failed to live up to expectation. I've said it before that the writers and production staff seemed to be on point when it came to finding Star 1. The search for it, however, seemed dead from the start, and this is annoying, especially since it set up the finding of Star 1 as something of a race between the Liberator crew and Travis. Such a race never seemed to be fully realised though, and all we get is an ever-decreasing in quality take on Travis by Brian Croucher. I've said it before, Mr. Croucher is a fine actor in his own right, he just never seemed to get Travis right. I never wanted a carbon copy of Stephen Greif's character, but given how awesome I personally think that portrayal was, it was going to be incredibly difficult for any actor to fill those shoes. Which is why I think, and I'm led to believe a lot of other people have thought this as well, that Brian Croucher should have played a completely different character. His own character. No, it probably wouldn't have been as good as Travis, but at least there never would have been that comparison, and therefore Brian Croucher could always avoid that extra level of critiquing of his performance. The kind of critiquing that I'm still giving him over 40 years since we first saw it. One thing that Season 2 did that really marked it out is of course the death of Gan. While television programmes like Game of Thrones nowadays happily kill off characters left, right and centre without a moment's notice, such a notion was very rare back in the late 70s, especially for a kids show. Yes, it was cutting out a character that wasn't contributing very much, despite the writers having 4 episodes in Season 2 to give him something else to do, but still, the effect of Gan's death gave Blake 7 that level of darkness, that sense that perhaps the goodies weren't always going to win, and that would haunt. I said in my Season 1 review that the consistency and development of the characters would be easier to look at over the course of 2 seasons. That may have just been me copping out of doing a proper character study back then, so let me try to put that to rights now. Gan actually does have his moment in the sun, in Shadow, when he actually stands up to Blake, and quite rightly too, when they try and do business with the criminal Terra Nostra. This was better for his character than lying on his back all day in Breakdown, the titular Gan episode. A pity this couldn't have been developed further on, or earlier than the 15th episode, but never mind. Callie gets a few signs of her warrior woman instincts, again in Shadow, when she casually takes out a couple of gunships trying to intimidate her, but she pretty much remains the faithful Blake follower, answering the Liberator phone. Her devotion to Blake is called into question, however, after the disastrous Central Control raid. She seems more ready to forgive Blake and help him through this, as she seems to know more about his plans to bunk off the ship, but when he abandons them, in an act that may not reject the crew, it does reject Callie in my opinion. She offers to get his gun, he accepts, and then does a runner. She would never look at him in the same way, and did not fully trust the mission that they embarked upon afterwards. Maybe this is why she spent 6 episodes on the trot stuck on the Liberator, with very little to do. She wouldn't be Blake's yes girl anymore. One person who did remain Blake's yes girl was Jenna, who also suffered with a certain lack of away team action. Even her teleporting down in Pressure Point and Hostage had a minimal bearing on those respective plots. I wasn't that impressed with what she was given to do when she teleported down in Voice from the Past, but I guess that she can at least say she got to teleport somewhere. Character-wise, however, it didn't help her. I can't think of any real development or change in her. The only Jenna-centred episode was The Keeper, and as I said during that review, if that wasn't the reason that Sally Knyvette decided to leave the show, I don't know what it would be. I'm not really sure if Avon really changed too much either during Season 2. That tough veneer that seems impossible to crack has stood up pretty well throughout. He betrayed it in Countdown, of course, with that excellent, subtle but vulnerable performance, and in Hostage, his feeling guilty he may have handed Blake to the Federation demonstrates a loyalty to the crew, but I find it very difficult to look past the stupidity that Avon shows in that episode. However, it was still good to see that his bark may well be worse than his bite, at least when it came to his crewmates. Or at least Blake. Don't forget, at the end of Season 3, Avon is taking the Liberator on this wild goose chase to find Blake, and even threatens to kill Tarrant should he try to interfere, a threat Avon was willing to carry out. Maybe the bromance between Avon and Blake was there all along, and it only needed one of them to say as much. Blake for me changed the most of all. I wouldn't say that he went crazy, but his fanaticism, his growing obsession with destroying the Federation, almost blinded by it, became more and more obvious.
We've done it! We've done it! We've done it! I've done it! Blake, there's nothing here.
And I don't really know if the effect of Gan's death was as permanent as it should have been. He makes it clear who is in charge of the Liberator. Whether he would have found it as easy to do if the others had somewhere else to go, or their own agenda, I don't know. But it is what it is. Blake actually took a bit of a back seat for the last few episodes. He was very much in the background in Gambit, he spent a lot of his time hanging about in a dungeon in The Keeper, and while he was in his element in Star 1, who can say that the primary focus wasn't on Avon? You can? Oh, alright then. Having said that I think that Blake left at the right time in my Star 1 review, I'm now wondering if Blake actually could have stayed for just one more season, or maybe just the first few episodes of Season 3, for that obsession to really drive him to the brink, and maybe he leads another Pressure Point style raid somewhere, nearly gets them all killed, and actually does get himself killed. Maybe sacrificing himself to save his crewmates. Maybe his crewmates kill him, maybe Avon kills him, when they realise he won't quit in his suicidal mission. For him to just disappear, I suppose, adds a level of mystique and legend to the character of Blake, but I wonder if there was a missed opportunity here. And last, and for me, never least, we have Vila. Again, I'm not sure how much he changes other than having his cowardice frequently justified. He seems to take things very much in his stride, not that he's ultra cool about it, but he'll always have something humorous to say about whatever situation they're in. So long as he's got his booze, he's okay. He's arguably the more self-serving one of the crew as well. Yes, I acknowledge in Gambit it was Avon's idea to break the casino at Freedom City, and Vila's merely a yes man. But Avon made sure he remained sober, unlike Vila who got royally sloshed, and got sloshed earlier when he sneaked off to Space City in Shadow. With everything that's going on, Vila sleeps on the job, gets drunk on the job, doesn't care about the job. But that's why he's the most endearing character. He's the most flawed, or maybe vulnerable is a better word, and maybe that's what makes him more human. Have the computer characters developed? Not really. Well, there was a change in voice for them both, since Peter Tuddenham was doing both of them. They're there to explain things where necessary. Both are interesting in their own right, but other than Aurak showing he can shrink himself in Gambit, I don't really think they change all that much, and nor should they. I don't see any reason why they should change. So, there you go. Season 2. Hit and miss in every sense of the word. When it hit, it was beautiful. When it missed, oh boy, did it miss sometimes. The goalposts will be changed for Season 3. New characters, new commander, new objectives for our heroes. It is considered the best season by some fans. Whether I arrive at the same conclusion, we shall see. I genuinely don't know. But we shall see. Until then, thank you for watching.
Now, for the last time, tell us the word. The word. The word. Switch the bracelet on. The word. The word. The word.
Beam me up, Scotty! I told you, beam me up, Scotty!